one day at a time since July 19th of 2008. For that, I am grateful. That's just because of rooms like this and people like you. That has not a whole lot to do with me, except that I showed up for the first time. So that's all there is. Thanks for inviting me tonight. I was going to sit on my couch and watch television, and it seems like this is probably a better place to be. So I'm glad to be here. My first meeting was on a Thursday night. I'd gotten arrested, and I decided that I ought to maybe show to the judge that I was making an effort. So I stumbled myself into a Thursday night meeting and had no intention of getting sober, but I got a glimpse of you guys, and that was good news for me. So happy to be here. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So for those of you who are like me and you're always interested in the bio of the person who's standing in front of you, so that math is that I've been sober for 11 years. All of my sobriety time has been here in Sioux Falls. I got sober at 26, so that makes me 37 years old. I am 250 pounds, so you don't have to guess all of those things while you are watching me. I am in the project management discipline. I work for a financial institution, and I make a good living. I was born and raised right here in Sioux Falls. My father is an attorney. My mother was a nurse for 25 years, and she had an injury and later in life became a spiritual director, which is like a spiritual counselor, if you will. It's like going to therapy with somebody who wants to get you connected to God. So imagine growing up in a household like that, right? I have 3 siblings. My eldest sibling is a very successful financial analyst. She's a very type A and always did everything right and good. My next sister and I are about 18 months apart to the day, and she and I did everything that you could do wrong together. I smoked my first cigarettes with her. I drank with her. We tried all of the naughty stuff and had a good time doing that. So then I've got a younger brother. He is a doctoral candidate at Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. I am the dumb one of my family. And I literally grew up on Main Street, right? Mark and I have a pretty similar background. In fact, we went to the same school as each other. So I grew up and went to a parochial school, which was a great experience for me. We had to go to church every Wednesday at school, and then, of course, we had to go every Sunday with the folks. So I got I was very churched, before I got here. My upbringing was really what the book talks about. I had an idyllic upbringing. There was not a cloud on the horizon. Nothing about the way that I grew up is the reason that I have alcoholism. Right. But I'll tell you a couple of my drinking statistics now that you know a little bit about myself. I got drunk for the first time. It was October 3rd of 1999. I was 17 years old. I waited a long time to start drinking. I had some commitments in school that were the only thing that kept me in school. I was not a good student. I was an undiagnosed dyslexic, and I was not able to read. And so school was torture for me, but the thing that made school tolerable was the activities that I was in. And so I was told if I was caught drinking, I was going to get kicked out of those activities. And that was the only thing that was keeping me going to school, was participating in extracurricular activities. So that was really important for me. I did not want to screw that up in high school, because that was really the only thing keeping my butt in the chair. So I drank for a total of 8 years and 9 months. In that time, I accumulated a few driving while intoxicated and charges with some outside issues. I totaled at least 3 cars that I can remember, but there's some other things I'm not entirely sure about. So minimum 3 cars. I got here and I was about $35,000 in debt, and I didn't have a thing to show for it. I didn't have a car. I didn't have furniture. I didn't have nice things. I just had a boatload of debt that I got while drinking, For the last 6 years of my drinking, I drank an 18-pack of Miller Lite every night. And, I disappointed my friends, my family, my teachers, my employers. And again, I didn't get here because of any of those consequences. I didn't get here because I was just sick of making my mom cry, because if I'd have done that, I'd have been here many, many years before, you know. So I just want to highlight a couple of things from growing up that will maybe help color my personality in for you, and maybe you'll understand a few things about this. So I went to a parochial school. So one of my first memories is that in the first grade, we were all given the task of making a rosary and bringing it in to school. I had forgotten to do this assignment, so I commissioned my dad to take me to this religious store where we purchased a rosary, and I brought that to school. It was this beautiful wooden hand-turned rosary. I mean, each of the pieces was beautiful and unique. Everybody else brought a macaroni rosary, you know. So the nun, Sister Joyce is her name, Sister Joyce comes up to me, and I've got this beautiful wooden rosary, and she says, "God, this is really something. Did you make this yourself?" And I said, "Well, yes. My father and I hand-turned this in his woodworking shop. And yes, we created this beautiful rosary." I mean, from the word go, the dishonesty comes out of my mouth without any consideration. I mean, it was just the first thing that came to me, and I was certain of it. And I believed it, you know. My defects didn't start because I was drinking. My defects started in primary school. You know, so then I get to the second grade, and Mrs. Olson tells me that I am not allowed to take any of my schoolmates into the closet and kiss them. Okay. So already I have a proclivity for a few things, and then by the third grade, I remember, you know, we'd all sit alphabetical, and we were allowed during our like story time. I don't know what they called it. It was like reading time, right? Everybody had their own book that you could select the book you wanted to read, and we would be quiet for, let's say, a half an hour and read. And I remember that Mike Murphy was in front of me and Lauren Elmark was behind me, and they were reading a different book than me because everybody had a different book. But they were reading at a faster pace than me. And so what I started to do was I just started to flip the pages consistent at the rate that they were flipping the pages, because I didn't want you to think that I was stupid, and I didn't want you to think I couldn't read. Now, the teacher caught on to all of this, and of course she told my parents that I couldn't read. So they decided that they're going to take me out of the regular school system, and they're going to test me because they think that I am one of the slow kids and I need to be, you know, well, we called it a different word then, but like a special program, right? So they have me doing all of this testing to see if I have special needs. And they get out of doing all of these tests, and they get to my parents and they say, "Well, there's good news and there's bad news." The good news is that she doesn't have a learning disorder. She tested in the 98th percentile of all kids her age, meaning that I'm performing above most of my peers. So the bad news is that we can't figure out why she's not doing well in school and why she's not following the curriculum like the other kids. So we don't really know what the problem is. That question was not ever to be answered, just that they decided that instead what they would do is that I wasn't being challenged enough. So then they put me in accelerated classes, which meant that I had to do more work, which I thought was not great, you know. But one of the things that I knew about that time that is not that different from my alcoholism is that, you know, I had those times where what alcohol took from me was not just my attitude and my actions, but it was my ambition. It completely adjusted the ambition that I had to accomplish things in life. And I started having those feelings of being disconnected and underperforming and comparing myself to you at a very, very early age. I'm programmed that way. I don't think there's a reason for it. I mean, they tried to figure it out and there wasn't one, right? So all I know is that those feelings of disconnectedness, that apartness, I love that 12 and 12 uses the words, it says that we suffer these pangs of anxious apartness. And I knew that young. I know that feeling. That to me made so much sense. I've always had that feeling of anxious apartness. I promise I'm not going to go through every year that I was in school. But one other significant thing, so I'm in junior high school, and this gal, I don't know, all of a sudden I'm like, well, what if she hears this on the internet? Because that would never happen. Anyway, that bitch is going to hear this. So I'm sitting down in geography class, and this girl named Heidi Hoff is sitting behind me, and I go to sit down, and she kicks the chair out from underneath me, and in front of the whole class says, dogs are supposed to sit on the floor. And I don't know what anybody else would have done with that, but I just wanted to disappear. I mean, I wish that I was dead. I mean, she said what I already felt. So we've got a speaker who's coming to our roundup, and what he says is, I was the perfectly tilled soil for the disease of alcoholism. All of this discontentedness, when you put alcohol in me, it was just a salve to all of that discontentedness that I had been feeling my whole life. It wasn't that I was drinking to get good. I was drinking to get normal, to feel like other people felt all of the time. It was just filling me up so I could function, right? This stuff was in me so deep. In any case, like I said, none of those things made me alcoholic. My defects were in me well before I drank. But I know that now today I need to deal with all of that stuff. Really, what we talk about in the fifth step, the exact nature of my wrongs, not that I do defective things, but why is it that I do those defective things? And can I get through that defective behavior and start to heal some of that stuff through the process and through the work so that I don't behave the same way anymore? Otherwise, the thing that I promised is that I will continue to behave the same way over and over and over again. And dealing with that stuff that's entrenched, that's been there since I was a 7-year-old, dishonesty from the word go, that is the work that we do here, right? Anyway, more on that later. So, like I said, when I was in high school, I had a lot of extracurricular stuff going on. I've played high school soccer competitively. You don't do that with the kind of behind that I have now, but I was much smaller then. I was in speech. I was in theater. One of the things that was given to me by being in speech was that I developed a verbal acuity for being able to talk in front of other people, which has served me reasonably well throughout my life. But the other thing that it developed in me was this sense of a feeling of confidence when I was in front of other people. And one of the things that kind of brought through my life was that you would suppose that because I can speak okay, that if I had a problem or I needed something, that I would just ask for a solution to said thing. Or that if I was lonely, I would just say it because I have the vocabulary. But that isn't true, right? Just because I was able to speak well and describe what it is that I wanted, it didn't mean that I was doing it. And as a consequence of that, I've spent a lot of my life feeling lonely, even in Alcoholics Anonymous, unable to ask for the things that I need and want, even though I'm able to do it. So anyway, I participated in this. It was called improv. Like you think of improv maybe as like improv comedy. We weren't like that in high school. We just did there was a program called Character Counts. And we would go to the elementary schools and we would tell people you should be trustworthy and a good citizen and all of these stuff. So I would go out around and tell these kids this kind of stuff. And I remember I had started smoking, and this kid was like, the good lady is doing these bad things. And I was, I don't know, like 17 or 18 at the time. And I always remember that stuck out, even while I was there telling all of these kids to be like good students and honor their teachers and their parents, then I was going and doing these ridiculous things. Anyway, so there was that first drink. I'm 17 years old, I'm a senior in high school, and my friends and I get together, and we decide that we're going to get a drink. All of us have been sober, basically, up until this point, because we were on these same extracurricular contracts, so we weren't drinking. All right, so we get this idea, we are going to go out and drink. One of my friends is 18, and he gets a room at the Baymont Inn, which is on 41st Street and 29, where they meet each other. But we don't have any booze. So Allie Gallagher and her parents are out of town on vacation, and we know that they've got a Coca-Cola machine size thing, with the sliding doors, full of liquor in it in Larchwood, Iowa. So we drive out to Larchwood, steal all of their alcohol, drive it back to the Baymont Inn in Sioux Falls, and continue to drink the alcohol. I don't know if I got drunk that night or not. I certainly drank enough to. I remember those guys puking, but what I remember for me was that it just turned the lights on. For me, my black and white life went to Technicolor. Mark said the words, I fell in love with alcohol that night. It did everything for me that I didn't even know that I needed. It was great. So the next morning we wake up and we're all supposed to be going to wherever we're supposed to be at, which for me was my job, which was a children's play center. This is a 4,000 square foot facility with soft play, like, in a McDonald's, but 4,000 square feet of it with 200 screaming children the first day that you have a hangover. So we're going off to this, and I say to my friend, who I've been drinking with the night before, I think I'm an alcoholic. And she said, you can't be an alcoholic. You've only ever been drunk once. And I said, I know. I love it. And she and I knew right then that I had stepped into a territory that made me different than my peers. They had a fine time drinking, and sure, we drank again. But I fell in love head over heels with alcohol the first time I drank, and I chased that for the next 9 years. In any case, I did things I'm not ashamed of. Of course, we stole from these people. We lied to our folks. I mean, again, all of this defective behavior coming out just so that I can get what I want, and do the things that I want to do. So after that, of course, I'm just chasing the next opportunity to drink. And so I did that. I went down to University of South Dakota, which is in Vermillion, just a little while away from here, where my sister was in college. And then I decided to drink with her and her college friends. And that, my friends, was an excellent experiment, which confirmed what I had already known, which was that this is what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. In any case, pardon me, I got like a tickle in my throat, so just excuse me for a second. So I enroll in school at the University of Minnesota in Duluth, which is about 6 hours away from here. It's cold there. I went to visit in August, so I didn't have quite a sense of what I was getting myself into. And the theme for the school that year was that the greatest classroom is outdoors, which I took to mean that I did not need to attend classes. Instead, I did some other outside issues and spent a whole lot of time drinking. Oh, I should mention that before that, I got a job at a bar in between before I went to college. And if you want to have a good time drinking, the thing you do is you go out with people in the service industry, particularly the cooks, because they will teach you some other things, other outside issues at a good rate. So I had kind of I developed a tolerance by the time that I got to college. While I was there, almost instantly, my peer group started to realize that we were not doing the same thing. And I started to be called an alcoholic for the first time. Now, I've been drinking a year, and I'm starting to have friends tell me they don't want to be drinking with me because I do not drink the way that they drink, and I'm dangerous when I drink. And I just thought, this is insanity. I'm a kid. I'm just having a good time. Calm down, right? There was sort of that initial sense of, yeah, alcohol is amazing. I love it. And then I was like, but I'm a kid. I mean, this is what everybody's doing. Everybody drank every night of the week. So it just wasn't that weird to me. And so I wasn't processing the information that was being given me. In any case, one of the things that stuck out to me was on September 11th, when the towers fell, so it's early in the morning. The first thing that I did was I opened a Miller Lite, first thing in the morning. And I thought that made some pretty good sense. And I moved in with a group of friends of mine, and they said, here's the deal. You can live here with us. Oh, I should tell you, I was also kicked out of my campus housing for drinking. So I needed to find a new place to stay. This happened a lot. Alcoholics are great at moving. Usually we can move in a garbage bag. I'm very good at that. It doesn't take much for me to move from one place to another. So on one such occasion, I am moving in a garbage bag to a new location because I have to find a place to live. So these people have agreed to let me live in their house. The agreement is that I cannot use any drugs, or at least that's the thing that I heard. So I have they make these cubes of Milwaukee Special Best Reserve. Anyone? They're like, I'm not kidding, $4.99 for a 30-pack. And I live right across the road from Wisconsin, so the stuff was just cheap as hell, man. So I had a 30-pack cube of Milwaukee Special Best Reserve underneath my bed. It like slid really nice underneath the bed. And so I had that there. And then I would smoke pot and stuff with them. And I thought that was fine. And then they have this like family meeting intervention. They're kicking me out of the house. And they're like, remember, we told you you couldn't do any of this stuff or you couldn't live here. And I was like, well, yeah, but I was doing drugs with you. So I thought it was okay. And they're like, no, that's not the deal. You got to go. Another garbage bag. So put the stuff in a garbage bag, moved to a house. Well, just an aside. This house is crazy. It was the colors of ketchup and mustard. And at the time, like all of us were in the service industry. And so there was a lot of booze. And I was living on a futon because, of course, I didn't have anything. I just had the garbage bag, Same kind of a thing. You need to behave yourself. Please don't do anything, whatever. So I get arrested, and that isn't very popular. Another garbage bag, another move, right? This is the order of things. I don't see anything wrong. But about this time, I get into a relationship, and I'm going to straighten myself up enough. Well, that goes the way that it always goes if you're an alcoholic, which is that I can behave for a period of time. The book talks about it. If you're a moderate drinker, you might be able to shape up. You might be able to quit entirely if you have a sufficient reason for it, like falling in love, which is what happened to me. But then I couldn't stop the drinking. So I get this message. We're supposed to be coming back. I'm still living in Minnesota. I get this message. Supposed to be coming back to Sioux Falls. And the person I'm dating writes me a letter and says, I'm not going to Sioux Falls with you. You need to get cleaned up. I think you're an alcoholic. And I thought, honestly, I did not know that alcoholism was a disease from which one could recover. Maybe that sounds stupid, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that people went to treatment for alcoholism. The only experience that I had with Alcoholics Anonymous or anything of the like was that I saw the movie When a Man Loves a Woman with Andy Garcia and Meg Ryan. And I loved it, so much so that I watched it over and over and over again. And she does this like monologue while she's getting sober. She's getting like a 30-day chip or something like that. And I would rewind it and pause it, and I would write down her speech, and I would rewind it and pause it because I thought it was so compelling. Like I was in love with you before I even knew you. But that was my experience. Was I didn't know anything. I really didn't know what was happening. So what I actually thought I was being told was, you're crazy. And that goes one of two ways with alcoholics. Either you're, okay, crazy is good, because then there's something wrong with my brain, not my alcoholism. So it's real dramatic. It's raining, and I drive myself up to the psych ward at this place. It's called Miller Dwan, and I'm like, is this what you want? You want me to go to the psych ward? Is that what is happening right now? And if you would like to keep the relationship that you are in, this is not the way to do it. So of course I don't go, because I don't get it. Honestly, I didn't get it. So then I've got a professor. I don't know what this is about, people writing letters. My professor writes a letter and says, hey, think you're an alcoholic. I will give you help if you respond to this letter within 1 month of my writing it. I did not know this then, but she was a member of this program. And I thought she was just being a jerk by giving me a time frame that I had to adhere to some kind of rule. And if you're one of us, you might also carry this trait of defiance. It says, defiance is the outstanding characteristic of an alcoholic. And I thought she was just being a bee by telling me that I had to respond to the letter within 30 days, or her offer for help was off the table. I did not respond to her letter. Thank you very much. Whatever. So now I've gotten these 2 letters in a short amount of time, people telling me that I'm an alcoholic, and I get arrested. Now, my parents step in and they're like, okay, something's up. We would like you to go and see a counselor. But they were like, you're going to go and see a counselor to help you figure out what you want to do with your life. But those tricky people did not tell me that I was actually going to a chemical dependency counselor, because they were trying to intervene on me, and that in fact, this person was a member of this fellowship who then gave me, at 20 years old, my first copy of the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. That person is a member of this fellowship, and who I get to see with a fair amount of frequency, and am incredibly grateful to him today. We have a special relationship today, and that's a wonderful thing that I get to be a part of now. But then I took the book and used it as a doorstop. I remember one thing, that I read Bill's story, and I got to the 2 bottles of gin, sometimes 3 came to be routine. And I was like, gross. I'm thinking like, this dude is drinking just straight Tanqueray all day. Ugh. And I didn't identify, because I also did not know that you should not read the big book alone. It is dangerous to try to solve your alcoholism on your own without somebody with experience. And that's what I was doing. All I was doing was seeing how we were different. So that was enough. Now the big book is a doorstop, and it doesn't fit in my garbage bag the next time I have to move, because that's what happens to us. So another important thing that's happened, so now I'm a few years into my drinking, and this is probably a key. At some point, if you are alcoholic, you may also recognize that the ease and comfort that comes with taking a drink is gone. I was no longer getting satisfaction from drinking. It was not providing relief. It was not providing the entertainment. It wasn't giving me any of the things that I needed, and I still had to do it. So I'm miserable in my alcoholism, and that relationship I told you about where I drove up to the insane asylum and said, do you want me to admit myself? Of course that didn't work out, and when it didn't work out, I said, that's it. I'm going to kill myself drinking. This is July of 2002, and I mean, I was committed. You have to drink a lot to kill yourself drinking. But believe me, I tried. So circumstances bring me back to Sioux Falls, and I decide what I'm going to do is I'm going to quit drinking, and I'm going to quit doing the drugs. I give my pipe away, and I'm like ready to. I'm driving down here, and I'm ready. You know, I got a new stereo because I don't have a place to live, but I decided I needed a new stereo in the car, so I'm driving here, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to get to Sioux Falls, and I'm not going to be drinking, and I'm not going to be drugging. I'm gonna get a job, and I'm gonna do all of those things. I'm gonna stop living out of a garbage can or a trash can, and moving around. You know, things are gonna change. Within 24 hours, I'm at the billiard hall, finding the people that we find when we do the things that we do, drinking again and drugging again. I couldn't make it more than a day. So I got a job at a bar, because that's a good idea. And they give you 2 shift drinks a night. So I thought that my shift drinks would just be pitchers of beer. They bought that. They did that. They were like, all right, that seems okay. So I thought, well, you know, I need to be good at bar activities. So I became a pretty adept pool player. You know, I'm DJing at this bar, so I'm drinking for free a lot and drinking when I'm not working. Also drinking before I'm working, so drunk I can hardly figure out what I'm doing. So if you were ever at the bar while I was DJing there, it probably wasn't good. I'm not sorry. I was having a great time. And it is what the book says, right? In Bill's story, he says, gradually, things got worse. And if you drink like I drank, gradually things will get worse. So I get arrested again. And this time I'm going to preemptively go into treatment so that the judge will not force me to go into treatment. And I'm like proactive, you know, I'm thinking they're really going to like this. Now remember, my father is an attorney. So now his law partner has seen the footage of me being arrested, being an idiot. I am going in front of his colleagues and going through the process, embarrassing my family in all sorts of ways, but never, except for just a brief amount of time, thinking that I'm actually going to get sober. Because here's what happens. It's the first night that I walk into Keystone Outpatient Treatment. I see the one guy who I think has a shot at this thing. His name is Matt. I walk up to him and I say, so are you really going to do this? And he says, no, I don't think so. And I thought, I think all of these other people are jokers, and if he's not going to do it, then I'm not going to do it. I stayed sober for 7 days. That was the longest I'd stayed sober in years. But I prayed a prayer after I got arrested that time. And if you want to quit drinking and you haven't, don't do this. I prayed this prayer to God, and it was earnest, that I wanted to quit drinking. And I drank for another 18 months. I had never had hangovers. I mean, ever. When I drank, and I was a daily drinker, every day for the next 18 months, I was puking and pissing myself every day. I'm 130 pounds when I get here, sick. I've got the DTs. I don't know that that's what it is. I'm shaking all of the time, and the only thing that stops it is drinking. I get here on another ultimatum, which is if you don't do this, we're done, right? So I'll say this. Some people say don't get sober if it isn't, you know, if you're not doing it for yourself. That wasn't the case with me. I got sober because somebody else told me to get sober, and I've been here ever since. But I wasn't exactly sober. You told me not to drink, and I knew that drinking was ruining my life, so I quit drinking. But I kept smoking pot for 6 months in these rooms. I'm picking up chips, calling myself sober, not realizing that for me today, sobriety is from the neck up. If I'm doing anything that interrupts my relationship with my higher power or you, who is God with skin onto me, that I'm not sober. In any case, so I'm not doing the right things for a little bit, but I got what you got, and I got a sponsor. So I'm starting to do the work. I'm doing a 4th step high, which is a great way to do a 4th step. It feels a lot better than doing it sober, just saying. You know what? You could say what you want. It worked enough for me to be sober for or get a picture of what sobriety was just long enough to decide if I wanted it for myself. So I got clean with my sponsor, not because here's what happened. I couldn't look somebody in the eye. I was walking down the street, and I had seen somebody, and I couldn't look them in the eye because I didn't want them to know I was high. And that was the first time I had any recognition that I was being dishonest. That was enough. I told on myself to my sponsor that night. The day of my 5th step is my first day of sobriety. So I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. Please don't do that. That is what happened with me, and it worked enough to get me sober in the rooms and start doing the deal 100%. The other thing that I found out about that is that if I give God half of my heart, God can only heal half of my heart. Our AA math is a little bit different than that, right? And how it works, it says this: half measures will avail you nothing. I always thought half measures will get me half. Half measures get you nothing. And I didn't know that until I got here. That's AA math, right? Half measures get you nothing. So I throw myself into the work. I don't have anything else to do because I don't have much going on in my life. I don't have a lot of friends. I'm going to 5 to 8 meetings a week. I'm going to a meeting every day of the week, a couple of meetings on Saturdays, and I am just doing a bunch of meetings. And then, I didn't have any money. And you got to know, if you don't have any money and you can't put any money in the basket, that's okay. It doesn't cost anything to be a part of this fellowship. You don't have to pay anything to be here. This chair is free. But I wasn't feeling great about that, so I was always volunteering to read, make coffee. Back then you could smoke, so I was doing ashtrays at the clubs. I was doing whatever because I didn't want to steal from you. I finally wanted to be here and be a part of what you were, and the only way I knew to do that was to participate and do what I could do. So I found out that I was able to read, so I offered to read. I could do the ashtrays, I could make the coffee. I am the worst coffee maker on the planet. Very, very bad. It might be you. Well, I don't know. I'm just very bad at it. I just think, just like many alcoholics, it's stronger is better, right? So anyway, it's never good. But I was doing it because I wanted to be a part of you. I saw the joy and the happiness that you had, and I wanted it. So I was doing the work, and I don't know. For me, probably around somewhere between 9 and 12, the obsession to drink was lifted from me. And I was a daily drinker. So not thinking about drinking, not having that run my life was an actual miracle to me. I could not believe that I could be going day in and day out, happy to be with you, sober people, and not drinking. I mean, that was just blew my mind. And then I started helping other people and doing this work with them. And not giving my opinion or thoughts about AA, but doing the work out of the textbook that is described to me in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And shutting me up and trying to promote what it is that we do here, the things that we believe in here. And that maybe small act of humility was enough to change me. It started to change me. And I've had the most amazing experiences in sobriety, Most of them have been in the fellowship with other people, but doing the work with another alcoholic. I have got to walk somebody through cancer with this thing. I've gotten to be with somebody as they're dying. I've also had a member of my home group kill themselves after 20 some odd years of sobriety because they weren't doing the deal and they were miserable here. I've gotten to see, for me, the view that I've gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous has been amazing, good and bad, and I'm grateful for all of it. I've been to meetings all over the world. I've been to meetings all over our country. I've been just so grateful and blessed. I talked about one of the things that alcohol took from me was ambition, and that was certainly true. Everything that I always thought that I wanted to do when I was drinking, I never got it done somehow. I was busy doing something else. I was busy at the bar. I was busy drinking from the moment that I woke up until the moment that I passed out at night. But when I got here, I started to get to do some of the things that I was dreaming about. I've been skydiving multiple times. I've got to fly a plane. I don't recommend. Don't fly with me. I'm not. I'm just like my coffee. I'm not good at it. Most of the friendships that I have, I found here. So most of the people in my life are practicing these principles. I want to talk about a couple of other things. One of the things I told you is that I had about $35,000 in debt when I got here. Just straight drinking. I didn't have anything to show for that. Nothing. I basically refused to look at my finances for the first 8 or 9 years of sobriety. What I actually thought was, and this is a sober person, I thought, I'm just going to die. I'm not going to pay it. I'm just going to die, and then hopefully it just disappears. That's not, that isn't how that works. So I started paying off the debt, and it's not satisfying at all. You go from $35,000 to $34,500. I'm like, this sucks. All of it sucks. I don't want to be disciplined. I do not want to do all of this. And also, I had the fun before. There's nothing fun about this. I'm not getting anything out of this. Anyway, I do it. I'm debt-free. I have insurance, for the car that I drive. I have a license and insurance at the same time. Doing those things that I thought I could never do, which seemingly have nothing to do with sobriety, had everything to do with sobriety. It had everything to do with the integrity in the way that I am living this program in my real life. Not talking to you about the things that we do in these steps and meetings, but then not taking any actions that are real and quantifiable. That isn't a way to live here. And if you have that stuff, and that was just mine, that's just one of the things. It's just been a blessing to take care of some of those things. The other thing that I found is that in doing multiple fourth steps, that I'm able to peel the onion in a pretty substantial way. And some of these latter year fourth steps have been really revealing, not about what the defects are anymore, but about the exact nature of them, right? I'll give you an example. I don't want to bore you too much, but I'll give you an example on one of these things, which is, lately having some resentment about people who maybe don't feel the same way about the things that are happening in the world as you. And thinking, the first thing that happens in my mind is, well, you're stupid. The problem is that you aren't as smart as me, and you don't understand what's going on. And so I've created this narrative in my head where I really only want to be talking to other people who have the same idea about things as me. I want to live in an echo chamber of comfort and of that kind of ease and comfort that alcohol brought me, which is that I feel good about the things that I'm hearing because it's what I want to hear. This is the same thing that happens when I sponsor myself and I don't listen to the leadership in the meeting. And that's a crazy way to live. I don't want that. You know why I got that idea? I got that idea because of the way that I grew up. which is that we don't talk about things that are uncomfortable. We don't talk about anything. You only talk about the things that you're in agreement about. And if you have to defer to something, you'll talk about baseball. Because we can talk about stats and we can have a language in that space without ever having to be real. Because that's all that I knew how to do growing up. So here I am, I'm almost 40 years old, and I'm trying to figure out how to actually talk to people about anything real for the first time. And that's one heck of a change to make, folks. This isn't just the first 4-step I'm doing where I'm telling you I'm dishonest. This is fundamentally, I have some ideas about the way things work and who I am and how I come into the world with you. And I know I need to change because I don't want to be this way. Because I see this, the sickness, right? And I don't want to be a part of it. So how do we do that? One step at a time, one prayer at a time, right? You do the work. And you have to be disciplined, just like the debt thing I was talking about. The results come from the discipline. It comes from inventory over and over and over again. They teach us the process. And if I'm committed to the process, each and every time I've gone through it, cradle to grave, I have the experience of a spiritual awakening every time. So I'm not sitting here doing 1 through 12 once and phoning it in. I'm doing the work over and over and over again. I'm listening to my sponsor tell me that I'm selfish, that the words that I use in my marriage are abusive, that she's telling me these things that I don't want to hear, that are true and hurt my feelings, because she wants me to grow spiritually. And if I want it, if I care to have it, it's available to me. God, this sounds preachy, right? Is it the mic or is it me? I'm not sure. Anyway, hang in there. It's really almost over. Truly, I'm grateful to be in a well-lit place and sober today, in a fellowship that is ever more wonderful the longer that I'm here. And, I know that there are people that are dying of this disease tonight. And they'd be better at this than me. This program is available to those who want it. And today, now, I want it with you. So don't keep coming back because the speakers are so good looking. Because the coffee is good. But do come back because it works. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Thank you, Annie. That was wonderful. Thank you for coming tonight. Let's stand and do the Lord's Prayer, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works great. And we'd like to invite Mark and Annie up here to the front so everybody can thank them.
And then leave everything where it is.
Yeah, and then the tables all stay this evening. They have it pre-set up for an event they have coming up. For a change.